In 2019, Disney launched its own streaming service, Disney+. At the time, Disney believed that since they had owned so many franchises, that they could easily utilize them to create new shows that would attract subscribers. And while on paper, it may have sounded like a good idea at the time, unfortunately for Disney, most of their shows ended up being major stinkers. In this video, we're going to be looking at the top 10 biggest Disney flops on Disney+. Number 10. Doogie Kamealoha MD. Remember Doogie Howser, the successful early 90s show starring Neil Patrick Harris as a young genius doctor?
I remember.
Have you ever wondered what would happen if they remade Doogie Howser but with a more diverse and gender-swapped protagonist?
No.
Well, in 2021, Disney did just that with their Disney Plus show, Doogie Kamealoha MD, and although they were sure that this was an amazing new creative direction for the IP, there was just one tiny problem. Nobody watched it, and it was cancelled after 2 seasons. Number 9. National Treasure, Edge of History. Remember National Treasure? The successful film series about a patriotic and adventurous archaeologist played by Nicolas Cage?
Yeah, I think I remember.
Have you ever wondered what would happen if they made a sequel series to those successful movies but without Nicolas Cage?
The heck do you mean?
Well, Disney did. So in 2022, they replaced Nicolas Cage with a younger and more diverse female actress and released National Treasure: Edge of History. In addition, the show also served as social justice propaganda dealing with US immigration policies. Needless to say, with its heavy-handed messaging and without Nicolas Cage, viewership for this show was low, and after its first season, the series was quietly cancelled and then swept under the carpet. Number 8. Mighty Ducks, Game Changers. Remember Mighty Ducks? The 90s film series starring Emilio Estevez as lawyer-turned-kids hockey coach Gordon Bombay?
Yes.
Have you ever wanted to see a sequel series to those movies with Emilio Estevez now playing a grouchy, grumpy, and miserable version of his character?
Do not take me for some conjurer of cheap tricks.
Well, in 2021, Disney thought that this would be a great idea when they released Mighty Ducks: Game Changers, a bait-and-switch sequel series whose main protagonist was actually a single mom trying to coach her son's hockey team. And Gordon Bombay, of course, ends up being her assistant as she coaches her team to victory. Interestingly, this show was so awful that after season 1, Emilio Estevez himself announced that he was quitting it due to its creative direction. And much like with Henry Cavill in The Witcher, the producers then tried to throw Estevez under the bus, saying that he was fired because he didn't comply with certain, regulations? Whatever the case may be, Disney did end up making a second season of Mighty Ducks without Emilio Estevez as Gordon Bombay, and can you guess what happened?
Correctamundo.
Nobody watched it, and the series was cancelled. Number 7. Miss Marvel. In 2014, Marvel Comics, now owned by Disney, introduced Kamala Khan as the 4th version of Miss Marvel, a comic book character that has never been extremely popular to begin with. And even though sales for Miss Marvel's comics have always been weak, Disney and Marvel president Kevin Feige just couldn't pass up an opportunity to turn this failing comic into a Disney Plus series, for whatever reasons. And while the Access Media was more than happy to support this show by inexplicably giving it Sopranos-level scores, there was just one problem. The show's viewership ratings were especially low. While many would agree that actress Iman Vellani was likable enough in the main role, the show itself was poorly written, cringy, and dumb. And much like its unpopular comic book counterpart, to date, Miss Marvel on Disney Plus is considered one of the least viewed MCU shows on the platform. So if nothing else, at least its failure is consistent. Number 6. Secret Invasion. After several terrible MCU shows that lean too heavily into modern-day politics and agendas, 2023's Secret Invasion was billed as a more mature MCU show with aliens and espionage, starring Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. And while prior to this show, Jackson had always been generally well liked in his role as Nick Fury, once again Disney used this opportunity to diminish an established male character and make him look miserable and incompetent while boosting the female characters around him. In addition, on this show it turned out that for years he was secretly married to an alien for some reason, and that Rhodey had somehow been a female Skrull since Captain America: Civil War. Unsurprisingly, due to its lack of popularity with pretty much everybody, Secret Invasion is considered one of Disney's biggest streaming failures within an already lengthy list of failures. And by the time it aired its final episode, it was considered the lowest viewed MCU show to date. Number 5. Book of Boba Fett. After Disney Lucasfilm's Star Wars sequel trilogy disaster, it had seemed as though Disney, with the help of Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, were able to earn back a bit of fan goodwill with the first 2 seasons of their Disney Plus series, The Mandalorian. However, that fan goodwill ended up being short-lived, as not only did Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy fire actress Gina Carano from the show for political reasons, Book of Boba Fett ended up being a mostly embarrassing show that completely diminished yet another legacy male character, while also somehow reversing the events of The Mandalorian Season 2 finale. In any case, Book of Boba Fett was the series that exposed the Favreau and Filoni-verse for being more of a temporary band-aid and not a real course correction for Disney Star Wars. Number 4. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was the second MCU series to be released on Disney+, and to date, it is still considered one of the worst, which is really telling since most of them have been varying degrees of shit. The show was initially supposed to be about Sam Wilson taking on his new role as Captain America. Instead, it ended up being one of the most heavy-handed, politically driven shows ever committed to screen, especially within the escapist genre of comic book adaptations. For those of you who don't remember, the show illogically included sudden discrimination against Sam Wilson, an Avenger that had just helped save the planet. In addition to its heavy-handed 2020 social justice themes, girl bosses, and a touch of socialism, the only thing this show is mainly remembered for today is a cringeworthy lecture about skin color that Falcon gives to senators in the show's, climax?
You've got to do better, Senator. You've got to step up.
Number 3. Willow. In 2022, what was supposed to be another sequel series to a nostalgic 80s fantasy movie ended up being another failure for Lucasfilm.
Put a kick in it, make her gay!
While it was never going to be easy to make this show without original cast member Val Kilmer due to his current health issues, it seemed as though the show's creatives had never even tried. Instead of building upon Willow's story from the original movie, they simply repurposed the IP to push modern-day trendy agendas instead. And if a shill magazine like Forbes says that your show is too agenda-based, you know you must be doing something wrong. Even Warwick Davis was probably the only good thing about this show, seemed unenthusiastic and bored in every scene he was in, giving the impression that while he was happy to collect a paycheck, he may not have been so happy with the material that he was given. And if all of this wasn't enough, the show was considered such a massive flop with viewers that Disney decided to completely remove it from the Disney Plus platform 2 months after it aired so that they could use it as a tax write-off. Number 2. Obi-Wan Kenobi. While the Lucas-era prequel trilogy is widely considered inferior to his original trilogy, if there's one thing that most Star Wars fans have always agreed upon, it's that Ewan McGregor's performance as a young Obi-Wan Kenobi was excellent, staying true to the character initially brought to life by the late Sir Alec Guinness. After Disney's purchase of Lucasfilm in 2012, for years there had been rumors of an Obi-Wan Kenobi film starring Ewan McGregor, bridging the gap between George Lucas's original and prequel trilogies. But on August 24th, 2019, Kathleen Kennedy and Ewan McGregor jointly put those rumors to rest when they announced that the Obi-Wan Kenobi project would actually be a series on Disney+. Then, after years of production issues, delays, firing, rewrites, and reshoots, the series would finally be released, and rather predictably, it was an unmitigated disaster. While Lucasfilm can perhaps boast high viewership during its initial airing, it's pretty clear that the show hasn't exactly left a lasting impression with Star Wars fans, especially since the Obi-Wan Kenobi character was also given the Luke Skywalker Last Jedi treatment here, making him a miserable loser and bum for no apparent reason. It also didn't help that Lucasfilm attempted to gaslight any legitimate criticism about the show by suggesting that people who criticized it were ists and phobes. Again. So what had the potential to be a great crowd-pleasing series ended up being yet another Kathleen Kennedy-driven failure, further irreversibly damaging the Star Wars brand. And here we are at the number 1 spot. While there have been so many awful shows on Disney Plus over the years, no show has become more associated with failure than the MCU's She-Hulk Attorney at Law. Led by showrunner and head writer Jessica Gao, what had initially been billed as a fun, legal superhero show ended up being one of the biggest displays of anti-male propaganda ever committed to screen. Extensive rewrites and reshoots, dumb and nonsensical plots, poor storytelling, attacking the viewers while also tearing down one of the best on-screen Marvel characters of all time. She-Hulk Attorney at Law has firmly cemented its place as not only one of the worst shows on Disney Plus, but one of the worst shows of all time. What do you consider the worst Disney Plus show to date? Make sure to let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and also clicking on that wonderful notification bell. Thanks for watching, my friends. Thank you, and good day.